Welcome aboard The Nichole Show with host Nichole Hamilton. Our task is to educate, empower, and change lives. Join us for stories of resilience and rebirth. Honest talks that inspire and challenge you. Are you ready to make a move? It begins now. Welcome back to The Nichole Show, where basically nothing's off limits. For those of you who are tuning in maybe for the first time, I've developed this podcast to go deeper behind the scenes of the coach Nichole. In my business, I say it's not the Nichole Show. We're a collaborative. Everything gets, everyone's inclusive. Whereas this one, I want to dive deep with some of my beautiful friends, coaches, mentors, beautiful people in my life to ask anything and go into what makes a human really, so you guys don't feel alone. And today I have my very bestie, Crystal Angwin, who is, just honestly holds such a huge part of my heart and my life. We chat almost every day. And, if it wasn't for this work and being in the personal development industry, we wouldn't have met. So we've known each other a super long time. We actually didn't remember being in a Reiki course together back in 2014 or 15. So we've known each other a really long time, but got super close over the last 3 to 4 years. And Crystal honestly is a beacon of light, has taught me so much in regard to friendship, body love, respect, boundaries, communication. And today we're going to dive deep on some of the things that, uniquely bond us together and the experiences we've had. So, and I will also at the end and underneath have Crystal's links, because she is a beautiful self-love embodiment coach. But that's not what today is about. Today is about diving deep, getting juicy, girl talk, so you guys feel super included. So without further ado, my beautiful bestie, Crystal.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I can't wait to ask you all the juicy questions and get really deep into yourself, into your mind, and everything that makes you you.
Thank you so much for being on here. It's going to be a little roller coaster. I'm super excited. So and nothing's off limits. So let's just go where we need to, so other women feel like, they're listening to this. They're not alone in some of the friendships, body, everything that, in between.
Love it. Okay, so I have a juicy question right off the bat, and it's all to do with I've been so inspired by your journey to go from addiction to where you are now, to be able to hold space not only for kids, but helping other people work with kids as well. And you really talk about it so openly, and I'd love to know more about that moment of the breakthrough. When was it enough? What actually tipped you over the edge to kind of go, this is not me anymore. This is not what I want to partake in.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest moments was literally losing my mind. So my ex and I always paid our way when it came to the drugs, and so we never had credit or anything like that. And so when the money was out, we hadn't paid our bills, I would panic. We'd been up for days, and I would go into this bit of a, only he ever saw it, but this psychotic kind of, it kept me going, the crystal meth. And one time a person was there at our house who had a lot of it and had broken off shards of crystal meth, and it had fallen, and I had found a chunk. So in my mind, I kept thinking that I could find some, and I lost hours on the bathroom floor going through a shag pile carpet looking for more, because I knew my come down was inevitable and I was going to lose my shit. And I just was so irrational, and I lost hours doing this. And that was one of the moments I knew that you can't keep going like this. You literally can't. You're about to lose your mind. You're getting to that place that you're not going to fucking come back. And that was one of the moments I knew that I needed more help than what I was getting. Yeah.
That's huge. It really hits home for me, because I know with addiction, it can be really hard to break, and especially, with drugs. So coming into this life that you're living now, because I know you're living a life of your dreams, in something that you have created and cultivated over so many years. So what helped you kind of believe that this life was possible for you? Because you were, on the floor looking for shards, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I need to change my life. I've lost hours doing this, to now like living your best life, having great like connections not only with your family and your partner, but your friends, and impacting so many people. So, from that journey, like what kept you true to your vision of where you are now? Like what helped you through the darkness?
I think that there was always a knowing that I wanted to get sober. Like, I don't believe anybody in any addiction wants to be in the place that they want to be. And I used to have these thoughts running around my head: I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And I was already a mum of Brody and Jacob. And it wasn't that I wanted to commit suicide, and I had suicidal thoughts, but I didn't want to be fucking stuck in that addiction, in that mess, in that body, in that sketchiness. I didn't want to be there. And honestly, I had my moments where I would shut down and not tell anybody about it. But the more I asked for help, and I did get knocked back multiple times, like drug and alcohol counseling didn't work, the psychologist didn't work, the doctor, like I was reaching out little bit by little bit to people to try and get the help. And I think the biggest breakthrough was when I actually told my mum. And that was fucking heartbreaking to actually confess to my parents. I remember sitting in the lounge room telling them, this is where we're at. Like it was gross and terrifying at the same time, but it was one of the biggest breakthroughs. My parents thought I was bipolar. My mum and dad I guess it was kind of weird. They understood that I was a drug addict, but they didn't realize that my ex-husband was doing it with me. Like they didn't even. And they paid for my first hypnotherapy session. Like by chance, and obviously there is no chance, universe wanted me to meet this person, and I have divulged that in a different podcast, the session there. But one of my friends said, my boyfriend does hypnotherapy, and I just knew I needed it. I'd asked for help, and so the continual thing of knowing that I wanted to get sober, that I didn't want to be living that life, that asking for help when I had so many no's and it hadn't worked. Like I had done these things and got sober for a bit and then gone back and got sober for a bit and gone back. The continual of asking that, that wasn't the right fit. That didn't quite help. And when I had the hypnotherapy session, it just all made sense. It just all made sense. So when I met that hypnotherapist and that, energetic healer and that personal development coach, it just started to make sense. And so if I hadn't continued to keep asking for help when it didn't really work, that I wouldn't have got to where I had. Like that's where the vision started getting created. In that very first hypnotherapy session, I saw my life change from addiction to basically darkness and death to living my life with my kids in golden light and sobriety. Like I didn't know. I had this feeling, and that's when I talked to other, parents of drug addicts or other drug addicts themselves. Innately when you're ready to get sober. No one else can guide you, tell you, push you. It's a want. And so I continually had that want, even though in the moments I didn't, like when I was obviously like going to my drug dealer, I didn't want to get sober that day, but underneath I wanted and desired it. And when I confessed to my parents, that was a huge breakthrough. And when I went to that session, only a day or two sober, that was a huge step. And I have had relapses over the 12 years, when I got divorced and different things, but I never ever went back to smoking it every single day. And when I did do it after those personal development healing sessions, it felt gross. It felt yucky. It didn't feel the same. And so I've never gone back to smoking ice. I think I've had like a couple of relapses, maybe 3 or something in those 12 years. But, some bad choices, some bad friends, maybe 4, I don't know, but never again, like never into that world, because my body has shifted and changed so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely through the work, definitely through asking for help, and listening like to that little part of me that I was suppressing, like continually coming back to that.
Yeah, it sounds like you made the choice that you wanted to be sober, and that you made the choice that you wanted this light around you and your family, and that you no longer wanted to partake in something that felt like you were slowly dying on the inside,
Right.
essentially. Yeah, and that's really powerful because of who you are now, and to see that journey. I mean, going through those 12 years, what started you on working with kids, like the desire to want to work with kids?
I didn't even want to. Do you know what? Like, when I started studying, all I knew that was that I loved the hypnotherapy. Like, it was so transformative for me, that I wanted to know more of that. And when I started having my own coaches and then doing the study, I brought it home to my kids. My kids were 7 and 3 when I started learning this language. And Brody, I love him. He wanted to be a hypnotherapist. He wanted to be exactly the same as Paul. And he wore this suit and he loved it. He would rant me back. He's 17 now. So when I started studying, he was 7, and he would like literally put me back in loops. So I learned the language and I started bringing it home to my own kids. Hey everyone, Nichole here, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you all. If you're finding value in our conversations and loving the raw, honest dialogues we're having here, I've got a small favor to ask. This podcast is a passion project for me, and there's nothing I love more than bringing these stories and insights to you. So if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to our show and leaving a review? It's completely free and it doesn't take much time, but it really helps us in 2 big ways. It's getting the podcast in front of more listeners, which keeps our community growing. It helps us attract more amazing guests, which means we give you more value in the episodes we bring to you. Just hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and let's keep these conversations flowing. Now let's dive right back into our episode, and thanks so much for being a part of the Nichole's Show. And I guess through those discussions, I actually did have friends that would ask me to work with their kids, and then after that, I kind of started working with kids. I think Paul Alicio said, "Can you work with this client?" And I had no idea what I was doing. The first session, I didn't. But it downloaded in those moments, the intuition kicked in, and I could use the personal development techniques I'd learned and make it a game for kids. And so it progressed. Like, the universe obviously wanted me to, and it started lighting me up more than adults. They picked me. I always gave them a choice. I never just work with a child unless they, I knew that was a question. It doesn't matter if parents were paying privately. And now when I use NDIS, the kid has to say yes. Like, you can't work with somebody unless they want to. We know that as coaches as well. But it's even more important to empower a child because they haven't had that choice before. And so being a safe person, and I honestly believe the universe just kept landing them in my lap. And obviously I'm a mama bear anyway. My Jacob, he got diagnosed autistic, so I became a very big advocate of the neurodivergent children. And this stuff works for them. Like, the proof is in my 2 beautiful boys, and even little Aurora now, like how amazing, the humans that I'm raising, and I help others, be able to do that. And I couldn't be the mother and hold space, and I still fuck up all the time. We can swear on this podcast, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do without doing this work.
Yeah, and like, you're a beautiful mom. I've seen you many times, and I guess like kind of coming into this space of like celebration for your life and where you are now because of the journey that you've been on. Now you're impacting other people and helping other people create businesses to help kids, and the web is weaving for impact, which is really beautiful. And it's been beautiful to see you rise over the last few years, even more so deeply. And to really kind of weave this web into, like, me and Nichole, our journey, we came in for body. So like helping women love themselves, love their body, nude on the beach at a workshop called Women's Bear All. Nichole called me up and was like, "Hey, can you come and speak to me in a couple of days?" So I would love to know what added in working with women and helping them heal their relationship with their bodies. What kind of happened for you to want to do that as well as work with kids?
Yeah, 100%. I guess for me, we are a wheel. Like, I get pigeonholed the kids coach now. And again, thank you for asking this question, because, this is what I want this to be about. Women sometimes do get pigeonholed as mothers, and then they're only meant to do that role, or they get pigeonholed as, you know, boss babes or workers, and they're only meant to do that. But we are so diverse, you know, our sexuality, our body imaging. Like, I'm a pole dancer, you're a pole dancer too. Like, there's so much to us, and if any part of that wheel is wobbly, our friendships, our relationships, all those types of things, we can't function. And so for me, you know, loving my body, I'm 43 now, it took me to my mid 30s to really love it. I'm a curvy girl. I'm freaking strong. I used to hide sideways behind these pole dancers because I've been in the pole dancing world for about 14 years. 13 years. I think I was 30 when I started. And I used to hide behind them sideways because these girls have rigs and, you know, they're strong and they've got six packs. And so I really didn't like myself. And through a Reiki retreat I was running, I decided to visit Maslin's and just get naked on the beach. And it was that day that I stopped calling myself fat. You know, I've done a little bit of burlesque. I've been in the performing arts. I'm a pole dancer. I've experienced my body on different levels, but never had I got naked in nature and loved it and just fell in love with it. And that created my idea of showing this to women, because as mums and just women in general, it's so not taught to love ourselves wherever we're at, you know, and going through motherhood. We've even had, you know, a pregnant lady in that workshop, you know, the stretching, the growing. It doesn't matter if you're a mother or not, the changing of our bodies, it does take shape. And going there, and regardless of whether they got naked or not, just experiencing what their bodies are capable of and how beautiful was a deeply powerful experience for me. So I created this workshop, and as universe, again, I believe in this, you know, I created it with somebody else, and that person pulled out last minute, and I had followed you and knew that you were a beacon of self-love, that you had been through your own body dysmorphia and stories, because I'd followed you, and I was like, Crystal, I need you. And that led us to now. Like, thank God for that, because I couldn't think of my life without you now. I just literally fell in love with you, you know, and that's, you know, made our friendship so goddamn special. But I did that. That's why I think it's so important to have spaces where we talk about every facet of what it is to be a human or a woman, because we can speak about the woman's experience, and no door needs to be closed. We can speak about everything here. So yeah, loving our bodies feeds into everything. And if we don't like ourselves or love ourselves, then how do we be a good friend, a lover, a business owner? You know, that frequency is so powerful. So it's something that I still coach my women on in the groups. Like, yes, I'm a business coach. Yes, I work with children, but I help women work on that stuff as well, because if that frequency is out of balance, then that ripples into every part of their life too.
Yeah, 100%, especially like when it comes to business, like it'll just like be magnified in that, because you won't be talking on like this or being on socials and being seen and photos and all that's so important. So yeah, coming back into like our friendship, which I really, really love. So like, obviously you're a very diverse person. You love weaving in all the webs, which is great. There's no stone left unturned. But I'm going to bring it into some juiciness now, because I remember one specific moment. We were at a retreat, and triggers happen in friendships. They definitely do. And I remember you being very fucking angry and triggered at one point, and I went outside to follow you to see if you were okay, and you were like, you lost it. You got like pretty angry, heated moment. And then like, you know, I think I was calm relatively in that moment. And then from that moment of like you going like, brah, like bursting out in like the fire and attack mode, I think through our friendship and our communication, we were able to not have that happen again. Like, it was like, okay, you started after that going like, I'm feeling fiery, I'm feeling pissed off, or you've really triggered me, and instead of attacking. So I'd love to talk about your fiery side, because, you know, I see the softness in you. We're speaking into the softness in this podcast so far, and the healing and the depth. So I want to know about like the shifts that you've had with your fiery side, because I know that you have been super fiery in the past, super like you'd voice your opinion, not afraid for a fucking fight. You're not afraid to be like, fuck you, for example, to someone who you feel is like crossed a boundary or has really not treated you with respect. So I know that in myself, I've admired your fiery side where you're like super firm in your boundaries and you're not afraid to communicate. So I'd love to know for you, like in your journey with your fiery side, how have you learnt to, let's just say, embrace that fiery side without attacking? So it's like who you are without having to be like, I'm love and light all the time. You're like, I can be direct too. So I'd love to know more about that.
It's so funny because you're making me like emotional. I'm actually teary.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Um, the fieriness, I believe, comes just, to wind it back a little bit, comes from, number one, the way that my dad communicates. Like, he is very passionate, and our house was always a safe space to speak what we wanted to say. And then it's kind of like once it's out on the table, it's forgotten about. So there was no ever judgment or resentment, or what's the other word? When somebody grudges, no grudges were held. Like, no one holds on to it. Once it's said, cool, we can deal with it. So that was always open. My granddad was a big one on that. He taught us, like, if you didn't get heard, to type a letter to the minister, to send your food back. So it was always taught, like, I was taught in my family to use your voice in a powerful way. And so it always felt very comfortable. So I did that from a very young age, even at school. Told the teachers, I didn't, I knew that my family would back me up. I did learn it in an aggressive way. No offense, Dad, if you listen to this, he's fiery motherfucker. I learned to use my voice because I'm little, I'm quite short. So I'd use my voice in the most ferocious ways when I was younger, and the rest. However, when I did have a session on one of my healings, it was around anger, and my coach asked me, what do you love about your anger? Like, if you could get rid of it completely, would you get rid of it? And I was like, oh, but he goes, well, what's good about it? I was like, well, there's nothing good about it. And he said, well, there is. And I realized that's when I speak my truth. So sometimes I would suppress all my emotions. And when it got enough, that's when I would be like, fucking rah. And I think that's what happened at the retreat. Like, I was suppressing, I was trying to people please a little. And it got to the point that I was done. And then that's when obviously you saw my fiery side, because I had trusted you enough and we'd worked with each other enough. And so you got to see that. But I think it's honestly through a lot of your help in boundaries and communications that you taught me that we can express it and come back to repair and say, hey, I need a minute, I'm triggered. This is coming from this place. And one of the things you did teach me as well was always asking, like, ask permission. Like, do you have space to hear this? I need to raise something with you. Do you have time? And so from that point on, anytime you and I ever had a heartbreak, a trigger, something else go on, or anything even in our personal lives, we always asked, do you have time? Like, we make the time. Whereas in previous friendships and relationships, I wasn't taught that. We would just pick up the phone, download, bitch, carry on, rah at other friends, like, and pick up the pieces later. Whereas you taught me there's a real safety in boundaries and respect, and you can always communicate with love. And from obviously doing this work and having other beautiful coaches and mentors around, you learn that language, you hold space for that. And now I'm still feisty, don't get me wrong, I can still feel anger, but it's very rare that I behave on that. I've had issues with other friends and different things where I've been shaking, and I'm like, we're not talking now, we're done, like, I need a minute. So it doesn't really get to a point where it bubbles over. It might still, but I have that place to unpack and the skill set to understand where those feelings and emotions come from. But when it comes up, it's, I need space to really think about what my truth is bubbling, where it's not being expressed. Why does it want to come out that way?
Love that. So it's basically like, in a way, like you've learned how to communicate, hold it, and move the energy of emotions as well, which is really powerful. So coming with moving into more of your truth and communication and safety, I also know that you are a very sexy, beautiful woman who embraces her body, pole dancing, brings that in. And I know that in the retreats, you've really helped women own themselves, own their sexy side. And you're really such a powerful pillar for women to see and be inspired by, like, hey, own yourself, own your body, own your sexy side. So like not only you were saying about the wheel of like everything's included, like, you know, nothing's off the table for women and empowerment. Also the sexy side, people owning their sexual goddess. Like I'd love to know more about, you know, why that actually inspires you to help other women with this.
I think again that, you know, in certain places and spaces, we're taught to suppress it. You know, you have a partner and you're with that partner and that's it, and that's the only person you're allowed to be sexy with. Or, you know, taught these different things, or to not express it at all. You're a mother now, you don't do that. That's not okay. And when I walked into a pole studio and it became a community, it was just women expressing themselves in a beautiful, safe place. When I first went to pole dancing, it was women's only. We now include men in our classes in some clubs. But it's a beautiful place to express your body on how it wants to move, and there's no judgment on that. You know, some people are dancers, and, you know, some people are strippers, and some people are, you know, lyrical dancers, and the expression of your body in the way that you want to. There's mirrors everywhere. You can't freaking hide. And learning to love yourself through movement and expression of music and dance is a therapy in itself, let alone the community of women that, you know, clap when you get a move at the gym. You're doing a, you know, bench press and no one cares. But, you know, dancing, we celebrate each other, and through that celebration and again that community of empowerment, it really inspired me, and it led me to show other women how, you know, how do I get on a chair and do a head roll and feel like super sexy. You know, in my own home I have a pole, and I've worked with teenagers, and there's mirrors, and it could just be looking at themselves in the eye and teaching them to perv on themselves. You know, you want to feel sexy, you have to own it yourself. And these are, again, things that are not taught. They're just, you know, Instagram reels, and, you know, taught to have a filter and be super skinny or whatever those beliefs are in the media. So it's coming back to expressing yourself in that really deep, vulnerable way. And every single person is perfect, no matter what size, what shape, how old. We have kids that, you know, we do kids classes for empowerment, and then we have all the way up to, I think we've had women in their 70s at the pole studio, and we've had women, you know, from, you know, 45 kilos all the way up to 150 kilos. It does not matter. And that for me is so powerful, just loving every part of that. And if I can share that and inspire, don't get me wrong, I still, you know, get a little anxious or confronted when I post a video, you know, worried about, you know, the comments. I think one of my old pole videos on TikTok got some awful comments. Like, but you just, you know, have to come back to what I believe in my body.
Love that. And I love that we've kind of got into that diversity view, because that's who you really are and how I know you. It's like no stone left unturned. Let's just explore all aspects of self. And owning the sexy side is the really empowered part. And you mentioned about like the judgments that come through, and the nervousness around like sharing your videos. So my question to you is, you know, when it comes to your body now, and I know that you have love for it, is it still something that you're working on? Is it still like, is this still a struggle in any way for you, in where you're at and where you would like to be within yourself? Like, yeah, just like the juicy challenges of not just your body, but life at the moment. I'd love to hear where you're challenged at the moment that you want to open up to.
The challenge that I have is really, I guess, comparing myself to myself. That's the biggest issue now. So I can look back at old videos when I was training really hard, and I can see where I'm a little bit skinnier or stronger or whatever else. But I've really had to come back to just love. You know, the process is different. You can only have so much energy for different parts and spaces. So if I've been putting all my energy into my business, or all my energy into me and abs or my kids, my body is probably the thing that falls away. And I would still probably say that the challenge I have is emotional eating. I don't do it a lot, but if that's the thing I need at nighttime, I think I messaged you the other day. I said, I just ate my emotions, like a packet of chips. It's not a big binge, but I can see the difference. And so I will go through my waves of training and loving myself. And I'm pretty proud of where I am at 43, that my body can do what it can do. But I'll probably get in my head a little bit when I compare back to certain sizes or shapes. So the thing that I do practice now is like just every day, like you taught me, just love it. Just, it's so beautiful. It's so special. It moves. It's strong. That I wake up, with this, beautiful ability to move, to do different things. And that's where I stay. Whereas, years ago it would be jump on the scales, panic about the extra gram or 500 grams. So I just tend to love and be at the stage that I'm at and come back to gratitude and appreciation for that. So yeah, I hope that kind of answered it.
Yeah, it did. 100%, because it's the current challenge that you're still weaving in with the self-love around body with where you're at now, because it is a journey, it's an evolution. It's not about like a quick fix. It's just really meeting yourself with where you're at currently. You can totally understand that when the body changes and how we can really meet that with love. So I love that you loving on the body and holding it every day. That's great. And the last question I want to ask you is, when it comes to what's next for you, what's inspiring you in your movement forward within your business, what's the next big business for you, like big business move, or like what you are inspired to do? I'd love to hear.
Kids coaching, I absolutely love. Like I really, really enjoy it. And this year has been about more in person. So I've been teaching online for the last few years, 3 years now. Yeah, more retreats and in-person stuff this year. And personally, I've just been working on, me and Abby and our own coaching and relationship coaching, which really lights me up. And so really delving into that kind of stuff on my own personal level. So who knows where that will weave. As I said, I do love coaching people on all aspects of their wheel. So no stone gets unturned. But yeah, this year it's a lot more in person, and hopefully on the cards a Bali retreat as well. So really, immersing back onto that one-on-one in-person healings and sessions.
I love that. Thank you for being an inspiration and for creating like so much magic in your life. And I know that you're so multi dimensional in who you are and what you do and how you serve people. So I really appreciate you as a beautiful friend in my life, and also appreciate like all the parts of you that you've really shared today. And I know we've just touched on literally the tiniest little tips. So I hope to kind of get into the juiciness again next time. But yeah, thank you for sharing where you have been and where you are now. You have grown so much, and I'm really proud of you and the level of impact that you have created, not only for yourself, but your family and those that you love. So I love you so much.
Oh, I love you so much too. And, thank you for being, my bestie and a part of life, and Auntie Crystal to my kids, and, being that, that beautiful mentor to me. I would love you to put your work underneath, because you literally coach me for free, realistically. Probably vice versa, but the way that you present yourself and loving your body, and the language that you use have really helped me in all aspects of my life, in my coaching, my life with abs and everything. So I think that you're a beacon of love and light. And if anybody else wants to find you, obviously in regard to your programs, I want them here as well, so they can ask you the juicy questions.
Thank you, babe. I love you. I can't wait to continue this evolution of life together.
Yes, correct. So stay tuned. Hopefully Crystal will be on again. We'll dive into some more juicy topics. But yeah, thank you for being a part of the Nichole Show, where you guys can also put questions in. So if you did have questions for Crystal and I, like, we're happy to jump on again and go even deeper into self-love, embodiment, all the sexiness, and just, what it takes in friendships and life, rest, repairs, all of that. So we would love to hear what you think.